what's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I'm your host, Cozadd, manifestation expert, money mindset and fulfillment coach, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur. Come sit with me while I spill the real tea on what it's like to practice using intentional manifestation, demystify all of the woo-woo and confusing bullshit that comes along with creating the life of your dreams, and give you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, spiritual, and professional growth journey. The goal of this podcast is to support and guide you towards manifesting all of your dreams, shed light on the things that people are too scared to talk about, and encourage you to become the person who gets to have it all, be it all, and do it all. I am so happy you are here. Let's fucking do this thing. Oh my God. Welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I am so fucking excited that you're here. I am so excited to be here. This podcasting thing is brand new to me, and I am so here for it. This is a project that I have felt so inspired by and so ready to get out there to all of you for such a long time. And the inspiration for this podcast came from a place of wanting to build a deeper connection with my audience, with my followers, with all of you, because yes, you see me on Instagram, you see me on Facebook, you see me on TikTok, you see me on all the shit, but I don't think that there's enough connection between me and you when I am on those platforms, and I felt at different points pretty discouraged by it. And so this is my chance and your chance to build a deeper connection with one another, and I just love it because I'm all about being real, being raw, getting down into the nitty-gritty, and it's challenging for me to do that with a certain amount of characters that I can type in a post, or only having like a minute to post on an Instagram story, and I crave deep connection, deep understanding, and that is what led me to wanting to create this podcast, because I am just genuinely so here to create waves in what I'm doing and create impact in the lives of others by me shining this authentic, crazy ass light that I have, and encouraging all of you to do the same and to live the lives that you want to create. So the purpose of this podcast, just like you heard in the little intro, is to spill the tea, to share the experiences, the real as fuck experiences of what it's like to be on an intentional manifestation journey. Because there is a lot of stuff out there that makes manifestation and the law of attraction very confusing. There's so many just misconceptions and bullshit that surrounds manifestation and the law of attraction, and it drives me crazy. It drives me fucking crazy because people think that only some people can manifest the life of their dreams and others can't, and that there's all of these secrets and whatnot that you have to have in order to make it happen, and it just makes it so fucking confusing and hard, and it doesn't have to be that way. Manifestation can actually be really simple. Creating the life of your dreams can be really simple, but it takes a lot of honesty and realness to get to the core of the different things that are standing in your way, and help you get to the place where you can elevate. So that is what I am here to do. I am here to share my story, bring guests on, share the wisdoms, the experiences, the teachings that have led not only me, but people who inspire me to living their best lives and living the life of their dreams, tapping into the abundance that's available. So that is the purpose of this podcast. And with all of that being said, today we're going to be talking about who the fuck I am and why I'm here if you don't already know me. And if you do already know me, you're probably going to get a much more in-depth story of why I'm here and why I started this personal, spiritual, and professional growth journey in the first place. Because honestly, when it was going on, I was in the thick of shit. And I truly didn't know how to express it to other people. So even if you do know me, this is the extended version of what led me here. So in order to give you the full picture of who I am, who the fuck I am, and why I'm here, we got to take this thing way back and start with my story. So I am Kat Cozadd. Yes, I am Kat Cozadd, but I'm originally from a tiny little town in Colorado. I believe growing up, we had a population of like a little less than 5,000 people, and I never felt like I fit in that town. And it was really challenging for me. I grew up in a household with alcohol abuse. My mom was not a citizen of the U.S., and so she just did everything she could to keep me and my brother around, keep us safe, raise us, make us the best kids we possibly could be, best people we could possibly be. But there was a lot of toxic things that happened in my household growing up. And I don't say this to shit on my parents. I don't say this to shit on my childhood. I just say this to be like real and honest, because a lot of people will kind of fluff up their stories and make it sound all pretty. But there was a lot of times in my childhood that didn't feel pretty. Growing up with an alcoholic father was really challenging. I was extremely overweight growing up. So I was bullied for being fat. Just like had a lot of self-worth and self-esteem issues, and growing up that led to, in my early teen years, a lot of really challenging limiting beliefs, as well as being very challenged by my mental health. When I was a sophomore in high school, I had my first suicidal thoughts, and it was the scariest fucking thing I had ever experienced, because I had been this pillar of strength for so long, all of these different things that had been happening throughout my life, with my weight, with my family, with hating school, with comparing myself to my friends. I just always pushed it down, and I put this mask on and I pretended like everything was okay because I was part of the quote unquote popular group, and I was part of sports. I was quote unquote good at school. Sorry to any teachers from my school listening. I cheated most of the time just to keep up with the appearance of the friend group that I was in. But it was just really challenging. I finally reached this place where my mental health and my energetic and spiritual body could no longer take it. And I was kind of at this breaking point. And that was the first time in my life that I had ever paid attention to my mental health. But fast forward a few years into my 20s, late teens, early 20s, I never really dealt with any of the issues. I just kind of put Band-Aids on. I went to therapy. I learned how to bring myself to the present moment, all of the things that are genuinely so important, but I never got to the root of any of my problems. So I was just self-sabotage after self-sabotage after self-sabotage. And what that looked like was drinking, partying my ass off, blacking out multiple times a week, doing drugs, sleeping around, all to try to like numb out a lot of how I was feeling, because I wasn't addressing any of the trauma or the underlying issues that I had ever experienced in my life. And ultimately, just doing those things to kind of put on this mask to try and pretend like it was all okay. And I'll be honest, for a while it worked. For a while it felt really fun to have that escape from my issues, but ultimately those things and the substances that I depended on to escape from the issues, from the limiting beliefs, from the traumas that I had experienced, led to deeper issues. So I dropped out of college, which honestly, I never wanted to go to college in the first place. So that was fine. But ended up working in restaurants because I thought that was the only thing that I could do. Because I didn't get a college degree. I was told from so many different people that that was the only thing that I could do, that was what I was going to be stuck in for the rest of my life unless I went back to school and finished my degree. Just like limiting beliefs after limiting beliefs. And so I worked in the service industry for a while, but I ultimately didn't want to be in there. And I just was so miserable. I was not happy. I constantly was just still drinking, looking for ways to escape my reality, never felt safe in what I was doing, and just like constantly trying to numb out. And once again, I reached a breaking point. I reached another low, and at that low, I decided to pick up my entire life from Colorado and move across state lines in hopes of starting fresh, having a new slate, having a new canvas that I could paint on, and just completely recreating my life. And little did I know at the time that your issues follow you. My issues were going to follow me up there. I had no clue that that was going to happen. I thought that if I changed my external reality, that was going to be it. That all of those issues, the drinking, the sleeping around, the drugs, the self-loathing, the just guilt and shame and sadness and depression that I felt was just going to drift away from me. And it didn't. So I moved state lines to help open a restaurant, and it was challenging. I'm going to say it was fucking awful. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my entire life, moving up there and having no comfort around me, none of the friends, none of the regular things that I could turn into to numb out my problems, none of the distractions that I was constantly using when I was living in Colorado. And I reached the lowest, I'd say my rock bottom, lowest point of my life. My rock bottom, once again, was in a position of complete hopelessness. I didn't know how life could move forward, nor did I really want it to at a few different points, and that scared the shit out of me. And one morning, I woke up just so depressed, so hungover, so frustrated, and so over what my reality was. And I got up off the floor and I looked myself in the mirror. I looked myself dead in the eyes. And I remember I said out loud to myself, Kat, what the fuck? Like, you have the power to change your life. And you've tried to do it before, but you're not doing it right now. You have to do something if you want your life to change. You have to create change and do something different if you want your life to be different than how it's been in the past. You can't keep playing out these self-sabotaging behaviors. You can't keep going on this path that you're going on right now because you absolutely fucking hate it. And right at that time in my life, I think it was like the week before, manifestation and the law of attraction showed up in my life. I learned about manifestation and the law of attraction for the very first time, and it was perfectly timed. Obviously, everything happens in divine timing. The universe sent this information to me to guide me, but that was the moment that I realized that I had to pay more attention and start to shift and change things in my life. So I hiked my pretty hungover ass up a hill, and I, on my entire way up, listened to podcasts about manifestation and the law of attraction, got to the top, and I made the promise to myself that I was going to commit to completely changing my life. I didn't know what that looked like yet. I didn't know how to even get started, But I made the promise to myself up there. I just said, this is it. This is the shift. This is the change for me. And everything has to and will be different from this point moving forward. And in that moment, I promised myself that I would dedicate my life for the next year, at least, to live by manifestation and law of attraction, just to see what happened. I had absolutely nothing to lose. I was miserable. I didn't really want to be living at that point, if I'm being completely honest. And so I made the decision that that was going to be my reality moving forward. I was going to make shifts and I was going to make change. And so, man, I went on a journey. I went on a inner world journey that I never knew I was capable of going on. I started to invest in coaches, in mentorships, in personal development books, in spirituality books, in different online courses, and so many different things, and just went all in on learning every single thing that I could about manifestation and about the law of attraction, because that was my chance at creating a life that I actually wanted, or a life that at least was better than the reality that I was living at the time. And everything started to shift for me so quickly. I went from completely being the victim in my life, depending on my pain, being addicted to my pain, being addicted to self-sabotage, and constantly just living in a reality where I felt like the world was out to get me, that life was throwing its punches at me, that I could never catch a break, constantly comparing myself to the life of other people, especially my friends, and saying, of course they get to have it and I don't. Just thinking that I was like condemned to a life of settling and a life of having a really hard hand in life, to like becoming and realizing that I was the creator of my reality, that I had been creating this life of hardship and pain and bullshit for so long. And I finally gave myself the fucking power back, and things shifted so quickly. I went from feeling so depressed, so lost, so broke, to feeling so abundant, so in my power, so confident in such a short amount of time. And it was incredible to realize that that could happen like that I could shift my reality just by learning about manifestation and law of attraction and starting to embody the different practices into my life. And it inspired me. It was so inspiring to me. So I started to ask for signs of guidance. I started to really connect to my faith and my spirituality. And as I started to share what I was experiencing and share the knowledge that I was starting to gain, more and more people started to show up in my life that were really curious about it. And it was so exciting to see how curious people were about it, because I wanted to help other people create the same shift that I had been creating in my life. And that ultimately led me to starting my business. And now we're going to fast forward a little bit, but a little over a year and a half later, I've worked with over 100 women. I have helped them transform their lives, their finances, their mindsets, their relationships with themselves, and really step into this place of power within themselves and be dedicated to living a life that they're crazy about, as well as done that in my own life. I've been able to go from $70,000 in debt to completely financially free, attracting more money than I could ever know what to do with, living a life of complete freedom. When this podcast episode is released, I will have just moved to New York City. I'm currently recording it in Colorado, but just moved to New York City, like living a life that I genuinely had no clue was possible for me at age 80, 90, 100, whatever, let alone age 25. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because 2 years ago, if you would have told me that this was going to be my life, I would have laughed. I would have laughed and I would have said, fuck no, that's not possible. But big things happen when you're willing to shift. Things shift quickly when you're willing to shift, but I'm going to be 110% honest that it hasn't been easy. And I think that that's where a lot of confusion happens in the world of manifestation and law of attraction, is that so many people make it out to seem like it's this sunshiny, rainbowy, beautiful journey to get to this place where you get to have all of the things that you want. And yes, parts of this journey feels like sunshine and rainbows. Right now in my life, I can say that there's a lot more days that feel like sunshine and rainbows than there's days that feel hard and depressing. But that wasn't the reality for me for so long. This was really challenging. It was a really challenging journey to get to where I am right now. I had to address my demons. I had to address the trauma, the fears, the anxieties, the limiting beliefs, the self-imposed limits, all of the different things that had been holding me back and keeping me in these patterns of self-sabotage for so long. And ultimately, I wouldn't take any of it back. It's been the hardest thing that I've ever done, but it's also been the best thing that I've ever done. Because when you are looking at your life and thinking about, okay, if I make the decision to go all in on myself, if I make the decision to invest in a mentor or choose to do something that is going to put me on the path that I want to be on, there's a lot of fear associated with that. There's so much fear associated with that because it's easier for us to stay in our comfort zones than it is to get out of our comfort zones and start to create the change that we want. A lot of people want to create change in their lives, but they want it from their comfort zones. And I'm going to be the first to say that you cannot create the life of your dreams from your comfort zone. And it's easier to look at that decision of, okay, do I go all in on creating the life of my dreams and decide to step back and not do it, than it is to step forward and say, fuck yeah, I have nothing to lose. I literally have nothing to lose by going all in on myself and choosing to create the life of my dreams, because you don't. You have absolutely nothing to lose. We can make back all resources in our life except for time. Time is the only resource that we can't get back. So if you have been sitting on the fence of creating this transformation in your life, if you've been scared to create transformation in your life, just give yourself a moment to think about the fact that the only resource you can't get back is time. And that when you choose to commit to something, when you choose to commit to yourself, you are actually creating energetic change in your life. You take yourself out of the energetic field that you've been living in, whether that be the victim mentality or fear or your comfort zone or discontentment or whatever it is. You take yourself out of that energetic field and into an greater energetic field when you make the decision to go all in on yourself. So, just a little rant on that. But yeah, that is my story in a nutshell. There's a lot more pain, a lot more trauma, a lot more things that have happened along the way, but there's definitely going to be more podcast episodes that I will share on some of the biggest things that I've experienced in terms of trauma and how I've worked through those, because I know that so many people have trauma and want to work through their trauma but don't know how to work through their trauma. So that's something that we're going to be talking about on this podcast, as well as all of the fun, exciting, inspiring things that are not trauma related and are not pain related, because there's also been so many beautiful things that have happened in my life in terms of that. But I think that this is a great place to start, and this is a great way to kick off the podcast. So we're going to leave it at that. This is my story. This is who the fuck I am and why I'm here. I'm here Because if I can do it, you can do it. If I can come from being addicted to my story of pain, living in a victim mentality, constantly self-sabotaging, constantly acting from this place of needing and wanting validation, and allowing my trauma and my limiting beliefs and my self-imposed limits to run the show, you can too. And I hope to guide you and support you and inspire you on that journey through this podcast. So make sure to stay tuned each week. I'm going to have multiple episodes released each week, and this is just the beginning. So thank you so much for listening to the very first episode. I'm so excited to see where this podcast takes us, and I fucking love you. Oh my gosh, thank you for listening to today's episode. I'm so grateful to have these no bullshit talks with you. If you enjoyed today's episode or the podcast as a whole, please spread the love by leaving me a review on iTunes or sharing the podcast with others. This is how I will be able to spread more of these good vibes and be able to make more of an impact on the lives of others. And if you're not already part of all of the goodness and communities that I have to offer, check out the show notes. I have links to the different ways that I can support you on your manifestation journey and help you live a life full of more money, fulfillment, and freedom. But that is all for now. So big love and hugs, and I will chat with you soon, babe.